Hi, so this is a what I'm reading segment, and so what I'm currently reading is Octavia Butler's Parable of the Talents. And she has a book that comes before this, Parable of the Sower. You don't have to read that beforehand because they do a pretty good job of catching you up at the beginning, but I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. And I should just say, Octavia Butler is a Black woman. She centers Black women and Black people in her books. And I'm learning more about it because I was never like a sci-fi person, and she's listed in sci-fi. And so I have a girlfriend who has been telling me to read her books forever, and I just hadn't because I'm like, I'm not really into sci-fi. But what I find is it's more like Afro-Futurism, which I'm learning about is like this mix of like fantasy with history and philosophy that centers Black people, and it's awesome. So I encourage you to dig in. So my girlfriend telling me to read this book since 20 years ago, and then I should give a shout out maybe to Wisdom. So thanks, Wisdom, for encouraging me to pick up Octavia Butler. And then Adrienne Maree Brown, she has written Emergent Strategy, which is awesome, but it's largely inspired by Octavia Butler's ideas. And she actually has another book, an edited book, it's called Octavia's Brood, that asks current movement leaders to write their own pieces. And so about like what might happen in the future and what might be. So what's awesome about this series is it follows a woman, Lauren Olamina, and we don't know what happened, but from what we can gather, it's like if we just kept doing everything the way that we're doing things now, in terms of ignoring climate change and the class disparities and all the sorts of like not caring for the environment and each other practices that we do, it's almost like if all of that continued, but the pushback wasn't successful, and then we're dropped into this time of, we're in California, there are people living in walled communities, but the people inside the walled communities aren't well off, they're struggling. But there's this like have and have not, because the people outside the walls are having to like scavenge for food, and you know, you go outside the wall and it's scary and dangerous, but you're inside the wall and you're struggling to eat. And so it's like this insecurity that's happening, and there are people trying to like escape from California. So it's so much so that the states above, like the Oregons, Washington, Canada, Alaska even, have cut off their borders because there's so many people. It's like a mass exodus from California. So that gives you a sense of a little bit of like the chaos that's going on. But it drops you in this family and this community, and you start to learn about the characters. What I think is awesome is the way in which much of this could happen if we allow our practices to continue in the direction they are, if we don't do some major correction. Because the way that it's shaped, it doesn't sound like this is happening everywhere in the country, but California in particular is experiencing an extreme version. And I won't give too much more away, but there is a presidential candidate who talks about making America great again.
Bruh.
Yeah. And there's also a piece around some of the states trying to secede from the United States. Things have gotten so bad, people are really hunkering down to try to take care of the people inside their borders, and scared me, to be honest. There were times where I was like looking over my shoulder because it just feels so real, and her writing is so rich. And I think that there's ways in which clearly she wrote this before Trump ran for president, but like it's kind of prophetic in some of the dynamics that she describes. And it pushes us to really think about like how do we create and build something different. And then in the midst of all of that chaos that I just shared, I won't give too much away, but Olamina figures out a way to like make sense of what's happening and to create community and to build community. That's what's so exciting, because if you've heard any of my other videos or seen my other stuff, like I'm so interested in, of course, analyzing what's happening as an academic, but also thinking about what practices we need to know and learn and what we need to do to build something different. So not just critiquing what is, but like actually building community, building systems, building like a psychological sense of self that is not just in opposition to oppression, but that is whole outside of oppression, if that makes sense. So I encourage you to pick up some Octavia Butler, in particular Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. I've just been talking to everyone who will listen about this for the past couple months, and I know I'm tardy to the party. I know I'm late. I have plenty of friends who have known Octavia Butler forever, but I just stayed away from it because I'm not into sci-fi. I'd much rather pick up a documentary. But let me just say, this is not sci-fi book. Well, but it is. It's given me a new appreciation for sci-fi and what that means, and like the expansive way that it can push you to think, which people who love sci-fi are probably saying, duh, Kira, like, we knew this. Welcome. So all that to say, if enough people have comments and want to chat about it, maybe we'll come back and do a live stream or something where we have a conversation about the book. So I just wanted to let you know what I'm up to, what I'm reading. I encourage you to pick up a copy of the book, catch up with me, because I don't always have tons of time to read, so you probably can catch up to me. Join me, because this is one of those books that I think really pushes us to think about, like, what if? How would we be the change that we want to see in the world? So that's enough about what I'm reading. What do you want to hear me chat about? What are you reading? So give me suggestions, ideas, comments, and feel free to like, subscribe, and share.